Here we go, ladies and gents. The regular season is here. The team is passing out red towels in lieu of the Steelers game. This is our first game preview show of the season, so let's do this right and kick it off. Redskins vs. Steelers on Monday night.
Welcome to the Hogsty with your crew, Alex Zeese, Steve Thomas, and Robbie Duncan. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Welcome to the show this week, everybody. Let's meet our crew today. With me, he's elite when he wants to be. We have Steve Thomas here.
See, I deeply resent the idea that I am only elite when I want to be, because the truth of the matter is I am elite all the time.
Well,
there was never a time in
want
which
to
I
be,
am not.
Steve.
I'm elite whether I want to be or not. Okay, let's just be clear about that right now.
Well,
Old words.
You sound like a cornerback or the wide receiver there.
I'm never going to beat that guy. Can't beat me.
No, nobody can beat Steve. Well, you know, the other guy we got going, he's a little banged up before game days. Robbie Deadeye Duncan, welcome back.
A little banged up, but I think I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. Jay had a couple injuries on that list. We'll talk about who was banged up in a bit. First, I want to mention this because I'm sure some people have wondered. Sean has been out for a while. Nothing's wrong. He's just been moving out to Colorado and living in a cabin in the woods for a while he gets settled. He should be back in a few weeks. We're hoping around the Dallas game. But yeah, he's just in a little life transition. Nothing's wrong, though. He'll be back.
Sean's alive and well. We love him.
Yeah.
He's not fired and he didn't quit.
No.
And he's alive, so
Yes.
all is well.
That's all that's important.
Right. That's all that matters is stay alive. You know,
Survive.
It really was a little of a horror story setup, though. He was in a cabin in the woods with no phone or
Yeah, we're not
anything.
making that up. He truly was in a cabin in the woods.
Yeah. In the middle of the mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, before we get started on the preview of the Steelers game, guys, we're going to start with a little bit of a preview of the skin season with our own second take. And how this is going to work is I'm going to ask each of you a single question about the Redskins' coming season, and you're going to, give me that position. Pretty simple, but let's get right to it. So, Steve, you're going to be representing all the national media's stance right now and how everything in Washington, D.C. is evil and touched with the devil hand of Dan Snyder. So, Steve, tell me why my hopes for the Redskins season should be dashed against the rocks of the shore out in the West Coast or something.
Well, yeah, because if you've paid attention to the media, you know this to be a truism because everybody says it. But have you guys watched Redskins football over the past 20 years? When has anything ever gone right for more than a half season at a time? It's been since 1991. This is the Washington Redskins we're talking about. It's a train wreck of a franchise. The front office is a mess. The owner is a mess. If anybody thinks that what we saw last year is the truth, they're just fooling themselves. We have Kirk Cousins, who's played about 8 good games in his career. We have a defensive line that couldn't, if it was it's like a water going through a piece of paper, with the run game. And we have a running game that was averaging about, 3.5 yards a carry. This is not a team that is going to consistently perform like the elite talents in the NFL. This is a team that's been a doormat for 20 years, and we're going to see more of it.
All right. I feel a little depressed now. Now, Robbie, in your best Stephen A. Smith impression, tell me why this season is going to be like watching Angelina Jolie riding a unicorn naked.
All right. Let me try to channel Stephen A. Smith here for a second.
You got to take
First
that deep
of all,
breath.
I unequivocally disagree with Steve here. He's all right. I can't do it much more than that. Not bad,
You can't
right?
be a Stephen
Not
A.
bad.
Smith.
You're getting
Not
the
bad.
cadence right.
Yeah.
Can't do the accent.
Okay, so the real reason why we should be more optimistic about this season compared to the ones in the past is we have a very high-powered offense. We've drafted Josh Doxson to add to the mix of our already top receivers with Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon, Jamison Crowder, who's very much a sleeper in this offense. And Jordan Reed, needless to be said. We've added a tight end that can block with Vernon Davis. Our running game is going to be much better. Sean Laval is back. He's healthy. The center spot's still a little questionable, but everything else seems to be going in the right direction of a decent running game to back up Kirk Cousins in the pass attack. Defensively, we've added Josh Norman. We've moved D. Hall to free safety, who's looking really good there. We got David Bruton and Duke Iheanacho fighting for strong safety. Both guys are solid. We have a defensive line that's filled with role players that are going to be making things easier for the linebackers and outside linebackers to do their thing. We got Preston Smith, who's stepping up to be an all-star as it appears, and then Ryan Kerrigan's been Ryan Kerrigan. He's going to make his plays, and then we got Will Compton, the new fearless leader of the defense, and everything else seems to be looking good in my opinion.
All right. Well, I mean,
we did this because we just wanted to emphasize that. We hear the same things every year, right?
Right.
Every year from certain, certain people in the media, Eater Pay Inke, in Pig Latin,
right,
Peter
right.
King, always hates the Redskins. I hate to even say his name.
That
there's a
website,
group of
Schmock.
Yeah, Monday morning quarterback. It's relentlessly negative. But we really do think that this, we turned a corner and it's going to be different. And that's why we did that. We wanted to kind of emphasize the contrast here. So we really think that, we really think there's a reason for optimism, and it starts with the Steelers, which is Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and let's get right to that
because,
I'm excited. I'm nervous. I've got that typical, feeling I get before every game, like early in the season, where could this be a year where we start turning heads, or am I just going to cry at like 2 a.m. on Monday?
It's that primetime curse that we have going against us too, though.
Yeah, that has
Alex may cry at 2 a.m, but that's for entirely different reasons.
It might happen. What? Who am I kidding? Well, let's get. Where do you guys want to start? You want to start our offense versus their defense, or vice versa?
I think we start with Redskins offense.
All right, let's start with the Redskins offense, and I mean that really is going to be our strong suit, I think, this year. Robbie, I mean, I'm going to leave it to you to kind of tell me how are the Steelers going to try and stop us? Because I think this is one of the first years where you can say it that way instead of how are we going to beat that defense.
Well, I mean, I guess the biggest thing you have to do, and that's regardless of any person or any team or any week, is stopping the team's running game. We're going to try to force the issue with the running game, I have a feeling, because it is the Steelers. They're historically a really great run defense.
Right.
They blitz a lot. They confuse the offense. And a great way to beat these blitzes and kind of put them at bay is to run the ball and run it well.
Yeah.
So I think their biggest thing is going to be trying to stop our offensive line and our running backs in the running game. So that's probably their number one target first. But then after that, if they do stop it, it's going to be a tough time stopping our passing game. I mean, like I said earlier in our little
intro thing,
we have a ton of targets to throw to, and you don't have enough guys on defense to cover them all, with more than one person. Who are you going to double team? Jordan Reed? Okay, so then you have Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon and even Josh Doxson, if he gets mixed in here and there, and Jameson Crowder. They're all going to get one-on-one cover.
Right.
Let me throw some numbers at you.
All right.
In absence of any other games, to play before week 1, because the preseason really doesn't count, I went and took a look at both teams' final 2015 stats. And I think
their last game kind of thing.
No, on the season.
Okay.
And the Redskins overall 10th in points, 17th in total yards, 11th in passing yards, and then we get to the running game. 28th in rushing yards per attempt. 21st in total rushing yards. Let's contrast that with the Steeler defense, who happened to have finished 5th in rushing defense by yards and 6th by yards per attempt. But the big, the other half of this is that they were 30th in the NFL in passing yards surrendered.
Really?
Yeah. 30th in the NFL.
They were that bad last year.
They were that bad, and Yeah, and that is even throwing in 48 sacks, which is significantly more sacks than we had. So
Right.
they have a
48's a
blitzing
good year.
defense. 48 was third in the NFL, and Hayward, had 7, which means he was their leading sacker with only 7 sacks, which means a whole bunch of people got a whole bunch of sacks.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
point is here, our weakness as an offense is our running game. And I'm not saying Robbie's wrong. I agree. We're going to try and establish it, but it's very likely that we're going to run into problems running against the Steeler defense. Simply because they were so good last year, and the front guys are still there.
I mean, let's look at their depth chart for a second. I mean,
Let's do.
Cameron Hayward is their star guy on the D line,
Sure.
at left defensive end. Stephon Tuitt, who's I think a second-year guy now or third-year guy.
He might be a third year, yeah.
Yeah, third year. He's a very underrated guy. He's been making some plays here too, and their nose guard's pretty good too. Javon Hargrave, and then at linebacker Ryan Shazier. He's a freak of an athlete. He's just as fast as wide receivers. He can cover pretty much anybody he wants. And then Lawrence Timmons, he's a gritty, savvy inside linebacker too. He makes plays. It's a very scary front
And
seven.
you've got no less than James Harrison coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
James Harrison.
I mean, James Harrison is like 40 years old, but he can still get it done off the bench. It's
He's a mean dude.
the recently cleared James Harrison, I might add.
right.
But point is, the weakness of the Steeler defense last year was pass defense.
Yeah.
They gave up a ton of yards.
Yep.
They have the same. They did draft 2 corners. In the first and second rounds of the draft. Neither
And
of those guys were starting.
they also
go ahead.
just traded for Justin Gilbert from the Browns, so they have another corner that they added to the mix.
A lot of
Right.
depth.
He was a first rounder too.
That having been said, though, William Gay and Ross Cockrell are back. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Robbie. Those 2 guys started for him last year. I think.
I think they did. Yeah.
Yeah, same guys. So I think that there's opportunities for our short passing West Coast offense, dink and dunk game to work against this defense.
Yeah.
They might not have a lot of time, but Cousins isn't going to need a lot of time to, in the West Coast offense. So
Right.
I think we're going to try to establish a run up front. If it doesn't work, Jay Gruden's going to very quickly go to his dink and dunk offense fast.
Yeah. I mean,
agree.
I tend to agree with you. I think he will probably want to do that, probably get to a lot of flat shots, That play he ran a lot last year that I love so much, where the wide receiver kind of goes in motion into the tight end spot and then runs out into the flat, and they easily would pick up a first down every time on that. I want to see that all game long. That's what I think you need to do to counter that high speed rush of theirs.
Well, and I think this is also an opportunity for our tight ends, our tight end group,
sure.
Namely Jordan Reed, to really do wonders. If we have, if we have a situation where Cousins needs to get rid of the ball quickly, Reed is always going to be there. Now, I credit Robbie's teammate Orion Hall, who who tweeted at us. Well, and usually when he tweets us, it's just cowboy
troll us.
nonsense.
Yeah.
But he made a good point. He said, Jordan Reed, with his injury history and his concussion history, may not want to run drag routes straight into James Harrison. That may not be the greatest idea. So,
I mean, but Jordan Reed doesn't. I feel like he doesn't do as many drag routes as he does those kind of like slant routes where he gets up the field a little faster.
Yeah. Seam routes, slants,
Yeah.
To me,
out routes.
your drag guy nowadays is Crowder. Like he's
or
one-
Niles
Garcon.
Paul.
Yeah,
Let
and Garcon.
Niles Paul do that too.
Yeah,
Like running those square ends straight into linebackers, out of the slot, or you split the tight end out into the slot.
sure.
I think the best thing they can do to really help their running game is pass to set up the run. Attack them deep and attack them with the passing game to back them up some. Let take some people out of the box so you can open up some running lanes for the running backs.
What about just
That
screen
would probably
game
be
for
the best.
running backs?
Screens too. I mean, screens are always part of Gruden's offense, so I'm sure we're going to see plenty of those too.
Sure.
Especially as a way to counter all the Steeler blitzes that they bring.
Now,
Because the blitzing is going to be a serious problem.
Yeah.
This is a good time for the offensive line. I mean, it's good that everybody's healthy. Trent Williams hasn't been beaten down by the season yet. I think it's really going to be a big test. And I think just generally speaking, our point counterpoint thing aside, that we did our second take,
Yeah.
I think this is a big opportunity for the Redskins to really show the NFL that this team is for real. You know, everybody knows the Redskins' history on Monday Night Football and in primetime games.
And our history versus the Steelers. I mean,
And our
you and I
history
were talking
versus the Steelers.
Yeah.
Yeah. They haven't, what Alex is talking about is we haven't beaten the Steelers since 1991. It's been 25 years.
Yeah.
But if the Redskins come out, play well, and get a victory against an elite team like the Steelers, I think that sets a tone for the season. Wherein if they go out there and lay an egg, I think the media is going to just say, it's just the same old Redskins.
Right.
Bring on Dallas.
Well, if they really want success this season, they have to, at least come out of these first 4 games 3-1,
Yeah,
and it's very achievable. But because that long, what do you want to call it? The gauntlet, so to speak.
That we have towards the end of the season. Yeah.
Yeah, that hellish journey through.
We need to start hot, and that's not been something we do historically. Nope. I'll tell you what I think the Redskins really need to do in the first half, really. We need to control the clock. We need to keep the Steelers' offense off the field as much as possible, which is why I like the idea of starting with the run. I think from what we saw last year, what Gruden and Cousins are really good at is coming out of the second half with some adjustments to the passing game where they can put up some points. The games we win, that's how we win. So I'm hoping we can just kind of keep things close, get that first half done quickly, run the ball a lot, and then in that second half start airing it out a little more.
Yeah, I mean it's worth saying, of course, that Mike Tomlin's an outstanding coach, and he's going to make some adjustments also.
Oh, sure, sure,
of course.
And in terms of the battle of the clock, the Redskins have historically been pretty good. Have had pretty good time of possession under Jay Gruden.
Yeah.
He values
I know that.
Yeah. Now the Steelers, not so much. The Steelers are just had it. The Steelers are only ranked 23rd in the NFL in time of possession. And of course I think we know why that is.
Well,
it's because
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's because they have an explosive passing attack.
Oh, I thought it was because people in Pittsburgh can't tell time.
No, that's not it. It's because they have Antonio Brown.
Well, fair enough, yeah.
Which let's go ahead and talk about their offense versus our defense then, since I think we've pretty much covered everything our offense has to do, right?
Yep, I think so.
Well, yeah, I mean, to go into it more, I mean, 23rd in that category is says a lot because they're a big play offense. They're not your drive down the field 13 play type. I mean, they can do that if they want to.
It's not the bus anymore. It's Air Ben.
Yeah, it's big plays. They got Antonio Brown, and when Marcus Wheaton is there, and so is Martavis Bryant and other guys, when they're all there, it's a very high-powered offense and really tough to stop. So they score big time. They don't take a lot of time to do it either.
Not to mention, Ben Roethlisberger is just so hard to bring down these days.
Exactly.
Especially with all the new rules about you can't tackle a quarterback pretty much.
Yeah, he's really tough to tackle. Let me throw some Pittsburgh offensive stats at you. Fourth and this is 2015 on the season. Fourth in points in the NFL, 423 points, which is 35 more points than we scored on the season. Right. Third in total yards, third in passing yards per attempt, eighth in rushing yards per attempt. Only 17th in total rushing yards, which means, as we know, they pass a lot. But when they run, they can run well. And they have Le'Veon Bell and D'Angelo Williams. However, the Redskins, fate has smiled on the Redskins for this game to a certain extent because Le'Veon Bell and Martavis Bryant are both out with drug suspensions for the first 4 games. So we don't have to face them. Right. Sadly enough, in the running game, that just means more D'Angelo Williams.
Who's no slouch.
Who averaged 4.5 yards a carry last year on only 200 carries, had 907 yards. So the point is, when they want to run, they can run well. Right. But this is an offense that if you don't put pressure on Ben Roethlisberger and you don't have corners who can match up with elite receivers, it will be big, big, big problems.
Now,
Antonio Brown,
in my opinion. But
Antonio Brown had 1,834 yards last year, averaging 13.5 yards a catch, which is a lot for a number 1 wide receiver. It's not Deshaun Jackson running fly routes.
Right.
Well, let's look at that real quick. Their top 2 receivers right now with Martavis Bryant out is Marcus Wheaton and Antonio Brown, and behind them is Sammy Coates and Darius Hayward-Bay. I mean, and Antonio Brown aside, I like our our secondary paired up against their receivers. Yeah, I mean, Josh Norman against Antonio Brown is going to be a battle. But I mean, Breeland's going to go against him too, and he's kind of stepped up and showing he's ready to, make that next leap. So I mean, I think we're in for a pretty good game for our defense, to be honest. Yeah, we have to stop D'Angelo Williams first to really flourish.
Well, people need to understand that just because Martavis Bryant is out is not a lot of a break. Marcus Wheaton last year was averaging 17 yards per reception, 44 receptions. This is a guy who was a number 3 receiver.
Right.
It's a serious challenge, but like Robbie said, I think we have the defensive backfield to stop these guys.
And I'm not worried about Sammy Coates or Darius Hayward-Bay. I mean, Hayward-Bay is a fast guy, but he's not what he was drafted to be. He's not a number 1 guy. He's going to be locked down by. I mean, I think Deshaun Phillips can handle him just fine too. I mean, I don't think there's really anyone to worry about except Antonio Brown. Wheaton's a big play guy, but he's a big play guy because of Martavis Bryant and Antonio Brown getting all the attention. Now that he's in the number 2 spot, it's going to be a little different, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. You're probably right, but. Antonio Brown, serious challenge. I don't think the Redskins, Ben Roethlisberger in the Wednesday press conference was talking about how they weren't sure whether the Redskins were going to have Josh Norman trail Antonio Bryant all the way around the field, or whether we were going to see Norman just take the right side.
Right.
They're not sure, so they were playing both. I don't know what the Redskins are going to do. I guess we're going to find out. I tend to think that Josh Norman is just and Norman and Breeland are both going to stay on their sides, and whatever side it flips to is whatever side it flips to.
He said that in the past.
Yeah, they're not doing any following. It's just they're sticking to their side. That's what it's looking like.
Yeah. Okay, so you brought up the big name, obviously, and that's Roethlisberger, Steve. What do we do? I already said I'm worried. I don't know if we have anybody who can even sack the guy and bring him down.
Well, look, I know what you're saying. I mean,
is it just get him off his mark and hope that disrupts him? But he's kind of a vet at this point, and I don't know if that'll even work.
Look, Roethlisberger's an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
He's going to get his yardage. He's going to have a good game. The trick is to minimize his impact, keep him in the pocket, because as big as Roethlisberger is, and he's 6'6", 230, roughly. Like he can actually move, and he's pretty agile for being such a big guy, And so I think if he's kind of like Tony Romo in a sense, in that he can, being as big as he is, he can kind of scramble, use his size to get out of jams.
He can extend the play. That's
So I think you use Kerrigan and Smith to keep contain in the pocket, keep him inside the pocket, and hope you get a pass rush up the middle, directly at Roethlisberger is what you do. And in terms of stopping him, you gotta get pressure on him to not give him a lot of time.
Yeah. When it comes to the big 3 of quarterbacks the past couple years, or I guess decade really, many would say it was Brady, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees. But honestly, I'd say it was Manning, Brady, and Roethlisberger. Honestly, I think he's really kind of flown under the radar as like one of the best quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion.
I'll give you some Roethlisberger stats.
Sure.
He never has the wow you stats that Breeze had, but that's because of the different offenses.
But he's always gotten the job done.
I get that.
Yeah.
He's more
Roethlisberger.
Your old Roethlisberger would fit very well in the 1980s playing quarterback when guys could actually get hit.
Roethlisberger had a 94.5 quarterback rating last year, 68% completion percentage, 21 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, just a shade under 4,000 yards, and playing only 12 games.
Right.
So early, he started 11, played in 12. I'm not sure what that was all about. I don't remember.
Quite I didn't notice.
Well, Roethlisberger's hurt almost every year, for something.
Yeah, there's something bothering him.
But point is, the guy puts up a significant amount of yardage. He's going downfield more than somebody like Cousins is, which is the reason for the more interceptions.
Right.
But he's got 68% completion percentage, is pretty darn good. Yeah, it really is.
And
So I mean, we're not going to. It's not going to be a situation where we hold Ben Roethlisberger to 11 for 25 for 140 yards.
right.
That just isn't
I'm
going to
not
happen.
imagining that unless our corners somehow are able to swat down every ball. That's not happening.
And Antonio Bryan is elite. He may be the best receiver in the NFL. At least in the top 3, probably.
You can make that argument, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's going to get his yardage. And
I
so we
would
just
put
need
him
to prepare for
above,
that.
not Odell Beckham, but
Mm-hmm.
I'd put him.
We could have that. We could have that debate.
Yeah.
Point
I
is,
don't want to have that debate. I don't like either of them because they're not here.
Exactly right.
Fair enough.
Point is, we're going to have to outscore this team.
Yeah. Shootout.
It may be something of a shootout.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, if they're the Steelers have not improved their secondary and give up a ton of passing yards, what's going to happen? And we have Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger tossing the ball around the yard. You may see a lot of points scored on both sides. Y'all sounds like y'all disagree with me, but
I kind of do. Yeah, I don't. We'll get to the predictions later, but I guess the last thing we need to cover is the special teams real quick.
Yeah, and I mean, how
laugh
do we
'cause
want to
y'all
really
know what I'm
cover
gonna
special
say.
teams? We have good kickers. They have good kickers.
But I mean, Antonio Brown as a punt returner is scary.
Yeah.
I can't believe they let Antonio Brown do punt returns, quite honestly. But they do. I mean, if people didn't realize this, Antonio Brown is their primary punt returner.
I didn't even realize
That's where
that.
he made his career start. He was
Yeah.
a punt returner first before he even became the Antonio Brown.
If you just want the numbers, first of all, from a Redskins standpoint, kick return, our kick returns, we were actually 9th on kickoff returns, 25
pretty
yards
good.
per return. Yeah, that's the impact that's kind of minimized more and more each year. Punt returns, famously, I've railed on it for months, it seems like. We're terrible in punt returns, 31st in the league. Our punt return defense was middle of the pack, 17th, ranked 17th in the NFL last year. The Steelers, even with Antonio Brown, were really in the middle of the pack. They were 16th in punt returns.
Really?
Yeah, which significantly better than us, but
Yeah.
they weren't at the top of the league at that. And then kick returns, they're the middle of the pack there too. So this is not a team that scores, gets a ton of explosive returns in the special teams game.
I
Just
mean,
got to get downfield and cover.
yeah.
Yep.
And you got to have a plan, I think, where if Brown's back there, you're kicking away, and
Yeah.
you're kicking to the sidelines a little bit.
Don't even take a chance.
Yeah. Just
Well, and we have a punter that can do that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
or just tell Tress to boot it as far as he can. Make Antonio go chase it. Then we'll be doing okay.
I know kickoffs now go up to the 25. Do punts go up to the 25 if it's a touchback?
No, I think it stays goes back to the normal 20 touchback.
I think it's going to be interesting to watch what happens in kickoffs this week because, in the preseason, the teams
wide,
tried
yeah.
all sorts of things. And, Jay Gruden kicked a few of them short. And then by about week 3, we were just kicking them all out of the end zone. I wonder what's going to happen. Are the teams, Redskins, Steelers, anybody going to try to kind of play the game and kick it, 2 yards into the end zone and make them run it out to save 5 yards?
It kind of eliminates the boot kickers, the ones with a really powerful leg.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you still need them for the long kick, the field goals, but for kickoffs, you don't need a big leg kicker anymore. You need one that's more accurate and place it where you need him to.
You're saying
Unless
Cobra Kai Forbath still has a shot.
He's not on the team anymore.
No.
He
He got cut. Yeah, I got cut like today, I think, or early this
Shit,
week.
now I feel
Yeah,
bad.
it's I think it's going to be interesting just to see what happens. Our coach is going to be willing to just surrender the 5 yards,
I think
or not.
it's going to depend so much on who you have in your coverage units.
Yeah.
Coaches will.
Or who the
good special
returner
team-
is.
Yeah, a good special teams coach knows. Here's what my unit is. Here's what the other guy is. Either just kick it out of the end zone or not. They're going to make those determinations early.
Yeah, that's part of the game plan. They have
Yeah,
game plans for everything, so we'll see what they plan on doing.
right. You know what you won't see a lot of? Squib kicks. I don't think you're going to see any of those anymore. Well, let's move on to predictions.
Okay.
All right.
All right. And Steve, I'm the host, so you get to start first. What is your score?
Okay. First of all, I think I'm going to stick to my preseason prediction of the Redskins winning. I think we start off on a strong note. It's going to really be a big challenge, as we've talked about here. I do think that there's going to be a fairly significant amount of points scored in this game. I'm going to go – I think it'll be a close game because it's Monday Night Football. I'm going to go 31-28 Redskins.
Okay.
Wow. That is a big barn burner.
Yep.
Well, get ready.
Alex, you need to –
I was going to go even
second.
higher
Let's
than
see.
that. And
Oh, really?
you and I are the same on point spread, 3 points. I think the Skins win this with a last-second field goal, 38-35.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be that high scoring. I'm going to say 24-17 Redskins.
Okay. Well, I mean, everyone grab your, red towel from the, people handing out the red towels before the game.
Shouldn't we be calling it burgundy towel?
Well,
Yes,
the team
we're
even
not
called
Jim
it a red
Zorn.
towel.
I don't care what the team called it. We're not Jim Zorn, and we're going to get the team colors right.
All right, fine.
Your
Your
maroon and
burgundy
black
towel.
towels.
I guarantee you it's going to be ketchup red, though.
Probably.
It
You know
might
I'm
be.
right,
it's,
Steve.
it's burgundy, man.
Yeah,
It's not red.
Yeah. So, I by the way, I do love that they're doing that we're passing out our burgundy towels to counter the Steelers fans with their yellow ones.
Let's just hope that there are more burgundy towels than
Gold.
Steeler towels.
Yeah.
That's the other thing we've kind of forgot to mention. I mean, Steelers fans travel. They
do.
are everywhere. They are cockroaches.
You
man.
know
They're-
you know why? Because no one wants to stay in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Well, if
You've said
everybody
that before, I
remembers,
think.
the last time the
It was a
Steelers
team.
were here, it was an embarrassment, and it looked like a Steelers home game.
Yeah. I think we all remember. It was terrible. It was an embarrassment, like you said. So real quick, we're kind of at the tail end of the show, but wanted to bring up I mentioned it at the beginning, Cousins saying about Deshaun Jackson, when he wants to be elite, he's elite. I'm gaining more and more confidence in him. When he wants to be, he can be as good as it gets. Why are people making a big deal out of that? To me, it's nothing, like, he's just saying something, and I think people are taking it out of context.
Here's the thing. It's been a boring preseason, a boring start to the year for the Redskins, and this is the first thing the media has been able to really
Do anything with?
make anything out of. Yeah. When you see it on paper, in print, you could see it like you can make your own interpretation. But you listen to the actual thing he said, it's just, it's just a statement, a little, it's a figure of speech.
So you're
it
taking
was nothing.
the media is like a person on a desert island, and then Honey Boo Boo's mama walks up, and you're like, well, somebody.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps we could get a more attractive analogy than that. But
No, that was the point.
well, I think Kirk Cousins deserves the benefit of the doubt. Number one, he's not the type that's going to go slam his teammates. Sure. I think that the media, anybody out there in the media, is making a big deal out of that comment. Is really not taking it into context. As you said, I just think Kirk was saying, boy, when he wants to be, this guy is really good.
That's exactly
I think that's
what he was going for.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's an absolute total nothing story. I think it was a compliment. I think anybody out there in the media who makes a big deal of that is just reaching desperately.
This is like back in the Robert Griffin days when they'd pick at everything he said.
Right.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, I
Just
think you're right.
let it
I mean,
happen.
for God's sakes, the San Antonio Spurs sent Kirk Cousins a jersey, okay?
Right.
It needs to be
Recently.
boring.
By the
Yeah.
way, and then they tried to make a thing out of it because the Wizards said, we don't like that on Twitter.
Get over yourselves.
Yeah. Hey, Wizards, start being more like the Spurs, too.
Yeah, seriously.
Do you know how hard it is to be a DC sports fan when the Wizards are the Wizards? It's awful.
Well, anyway, back to the Redskins. The point
Let's
is,
go back
to
to the
summarize
Redskins.
that.
Anything else you want to bring up? Injuries? We didn't go through injuries, right?
Oh, yeah, let's go through injuries real fast.
Yeah, because I know
now,
Jay had a presser today, said
Well, we're
Dotson's
recording
banged
this on-
up, but
Yeah, we're recording
Doxson's,
this on
he's day to day. He's play by play. We're gonna just see how it plays out.
yeah.
I think it's sadly ironic that he's saying Doxson's day to day because he's been day to day for about 6 months now. It's always been day to day with
150
us.
days.
We are recording this preview on Wednesday. The official injury report comes out on Thursday, so we don't have the official report. But what Jay Gruden said in his press conference is Doxson still has his Achilles. He was limited in practice. Jones did practice this week. He practiced Tuesday, and then was limited today, Wednesday, and then Kendall Reyes did not practice his groin. The Steelers have a whole host of injuries. Their starting defensive
he
tackle.
has a groin injury? Just not he has a groin.
Okay, well, he does have a groin, but he does have a
Obviously.
groin pull. He has a groin pull,
Okay.
and he did not practice Wednesday.
At least you don't say like growing. Some people are like growing.
The Steelers somehow are banged up somehow, even though that we haven't played a real game. Their starter Hargrave has a quad injury. Cameron Hayward has an ankle problem. McCullers, who's their backup defensive tackle, has a knee problem. Their fullback Nix has a back problem. There's Wheaton, their number 3 receiver, has a shoulder problem. So they have a significant amount of injuries coming on.
Their starting tight end is hurt too. Ladarius Green. Jesse
really?
James, the 2-year player, is the starter for this game because of that.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then they toss in, like we said, Le'Veon Bell, Martavis Bryant out with the suspensions. The Steelers, we're catching the Steelers at the right time.
Yeah. I mean, I think, listen, if the Steelers were healthy, I don't think any of us would really be strongly favoring the Redskins.
Probably
But
not.
with all these injuries, I think that's why we have a chance. Well, that should just about do it. We're trying to keep these mid-season shows shorter and the post-game shows a little shorter. So thank you all out there for joining us for another episode of The Hogsty. Obviously, you know to find us at thehogsty.com and on iTunes. Please leave us some positive reviews up there on iTunes and on YouTube. If you want to leave a nice comment on the show, go ahead and do that.
Or negative reviews. If there's something you want us to fix or do better at, let us know too.
Yeah.
Any review is good. We'll take either one.
Yeah, we'll take any criticisms, comments. If you want to send us a message, our email is thehogsty@gmail.com. I was actually scrolling through our DMs on Twitter, and we had some messages from fans as well as, certain celebrities like Joe Jacoby and Rich Chandler, and somebody was tweeting back and forth privately with Joshua Laribus's mom. So we're just I'm not going to say who or what they were talking about, but
it wasn't me.
Yeah.
First of all, we have had Twitter conversations with Joshua Revis's mother. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know.
And I
did not have Twitter conversations with that woman.
Twitter relations.
I did Twitter Joshua Revis's mom and expressed that, sorry, your son got cut. So
Right.
yes.
Right. I know. But I wanted to make it sound dirty. So Twitter
It was
relations.
nothing
with
like
Joshua
that.
Revis's mom.
It was nothing like that.
Okay. Well,
Insult to injury, right?
I think that about wraps up the show. And so good night, everybody.
See ya.